Welcome to No Broken Legs AFC and NFC Championship Game Weekend. I am your host, Evan Belfiore. Joining me on the phone on this nice Saturday afternoon is Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, welcome.
Howdy, brother. Man, I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down today, so let's get going.
Well, we have two big games this weekend to decide who's going to play for the Super Bowl, the Buccaneers and the Packers, the Bills and the Chiefs. We'll get to those games here in just a second, but first I want to remind everybody listening that we did a Browns season recap podcast earlier this year. We also looked into what the Browns should do in terms of contract extensions for Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb, so check that out on the channel. Jimmy, our first game of the weekend is going to be the Buccaneers and the Packers. The game right now is a 3.5-point spread for Green Bay. They are favored. The over-under is 52 points. The money line for the Buccaneers is plus 155. The Packers are minus 185. What do you see happening in this game between two quarterback legends?
I see the Green Bay Packers dominating this football game from start to finish.
Interesting.
The Buccaneers won last week. That game was much more about watching the fall and the demise of one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. Like, as a Saints
Drew Brees was terrible.
As a Saints fan, I would honestly wonder, could we have won this game if Jameis Winston had played? Because Tom Brady was not that good. He tried to throw a couple pick sixes, and he choreographed horrible balls. He made a couple good throws, but down the field, he still wasn't very good. Tampa's defense did enough.
They really showed up. I felt like they were attacking and aggressive.
They were attacking and aggressive, but Drew Brees had people wide open down the field all day and could not get the football to them.
That is also a true statement.
Here is where I think this game will turn. I think Green Bay has an absolutely ferocious defense right now that is playing super confident. They feel like they can cover long enough on the back end that the guys up front can get home. And I tend to believe that. But I also feel like it has been a long time since Aaron Rodgers got to play in this game. Got to play in a game of this magnitude. This game is not going to be lost because of an amazing running performance by the quarterback on the other side of the ball. Aaron Rodgers has kind of proven that he very much thinks about his legacy, his standing. Where do I fit in among the pantheon of great quarterbacks? I also imagine Aaron Rodgers many times has wondered, how good would I be? What would my record be like? What would I look like with the kind of defensive performances that Tom Brady's defenses have given him in the postseason? I feel like he has a defense to do that right now. I think Mike Pettin continues to call great games. I also believe Aaron Rodgers has another level to turn it up to that Tom Brady no longer has. Tom Brady is not going to stand in the pocket and take hits. He's going to get rid of the football. I believe Green Bay has the corners that can hold up. I believe Aaron Rodgers is going to sling the football all over the field. There may be touchdown passes thrown to fullbacks, to second tight ends, to fifth wide receivers. Aaron Rodgers, I believe, is going to will the Packers to win this game. This is his chance, his legacy. Even in the big games he's played in, he's never had this across the field from him. He's never had another all-time great quarterback on the other side of the field who we all think might be at the twilight of his career. I don't know. Brady's been efficient this year. He still hasn't been great throwing the ball downfield. He's been good in spot, but he's still been efficient. He can still clearly lead an offense. He's kind of like the ultimate game manager on steroids right now. But Aaron Rodgers has a chance to get the entire world behind him to go ahead and eliminate Tom Brady from going to the Super Bowl. And I don't think that's lost on Aaron Rodgers. And I think Aaron Rodgers is just going to be dynamic in this game. There's no way that Tampa Bay's cornerbacks are as good as the Rams cornerbacks, and the Rams cornerbacks couldn't handle Green Bay's wide receivers, specifically Devontae Adams. Matt LaFleur keeps dialing up ways to get Devontae Adams the ball around the line of scrimmage if he needs to, or in and out of his option routes that he runs so well. I think Green Bay dominates this football game.
Interesting. In the first contest, Green Bay jumped out to an early 10-0 lead, and then it was just all Tampa after Rodgers threw a really bad pick six in that game that really swung everything. It looked like in that Week 6 matchup what you're saying was going to happen until he threw that interception.
Yeah, I don't think he'll throw that interception again, but I also think Green Bay's defense, they had some of their secondary pieces were out in that game. They're fully healthy, or about as healthy as they've been all year, and I think they're going to attack and dominate this football game at the line of scrimmage and in the secondary.
Yeah, I also think there's a lot to be taken into this. It's been a couple of weeks in a row, tough weeks for Brady, especially. He got chased around a little bit in Washington, not as much as we had thought. But this is another, it's going to be 30 degrees outside. It's going to be really cold. How we normally wouldn't think of Tom Brady being in a bad situation in cold weather, but he has been down in Florida for a year.
True, and this isn't like what we saw Brady go through in the AFC playoffs year after year, where his team is thoroughly beating a Peyton Manning-led team, a Ben Roethlisberger-led team, a Phillip Rivers-led team, like good football teams in the AFC playoffs. Taylor Heineke gave Tampa Bay all they could handle. Tampa Bay
yes, he did.
Tampa Bay couldn't blow out a Saints game when their quarterback for the Saints couldn't complete a pass over 10 yards.
Yeah, and Michael, it's the the reports on Michael Thomas needing surgery, needing 3 different surgeries because he's basically a walking med unit. That's information that I'm surprised they didn't come out with earlier.
I agree.
I don't understand because we've really dragged Michael Thomas's name through the mud because it looked like he was just being a prima donna. But this new information, obviously, in light of all of this new shit, man, we have to definitely look at what happened this season with Michael Thomas and the Saints in a little bit different light.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But like I said, I don't think I just don't think he's going to be able to find another level. I don't think there's going to be any magic left. I do think the weather, to a point, is going to be a difference. I mean, he's played in the NFC South this year. There haven't been a lot of cold weather games. There hasn't been a lot of snow in Tom Brady's life. And we all know we live in the snow. When you get away from it for a little bit, that first time it smacks you back in the face, you're like, fuck. And I think that's what's going to happen.
It just bums you out.
Yeah, and I do not see Aaron Rodgers losing this football game. He needs another Super Bowl appearance at least to really put himself where he deserves to be, because he's got the kind of arm talent that's only really ever been seen in Marino, and as much as I fucking hate him, John Elway at times. But, Marino, and then even Elway, because his championships didn't come till later, they don't quite get put in that airs if they should be because they didn't get the big wins. Now, obviously, Super Bowl appearances, things like that, shouldn't just be viewed on the quarterback. But when you're starting to really dissect it, it has to matter. And I think Aaron Rodgers gives a shit about that. I really do. I think there are a lot of quarterbacks that don't. Like, I don't think Phillip Rivers really gives a shit if he ever gets into the Hall of Fame. Like, I really don't. I think Phillip Rivers went out every day, did his job the best he could. He was probably never thinking, man, I wish I would have played better so somebody puts me ahead of Roethlisberger. I never got that vibe from Phillip Rivers. I get that vibe from Aaron Rodgers. Like,
yeah, and this is a big game in terms of his legacy, like you said, because if he goes to this Super Bowl, if he wins the Super Bowl this year, that puts him ahead of Breeze. And now he's in that conversation with guys that have won multiple Super Bowls. Specifically, Elway would be the guy at the top that he would be compared to in terms of legacy.
Right.
So let's take a look at some of the player props that we have going, which is where I've done well. My picks haven't been very good lately. I do like Green Bay to cover the spread here for a lot of the reasons that you said. Tampa Bay seemed to hold on against the Saints. That game felt like it was close, even though the Saints couldn't move the ball. But I also will, again, give out my warning that I gave last year. or last week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers look like they really want to win this for Tom Brady. And I don't think that can be minimized or ignored in any way. We saw what happened with the Denver Broncos when they had Peyton Manning. There's just some little magic. And it seems like Tampa Bay kind of has that magic. And I don't necessarily think that that's the sort of feeling that Aaron Rodgers instills in the rest of his teammates. That's just not the kind of guy he is.
I would agree with that.
So that is my caveat of this pick. Just be careful out there, people.
Well, all of my bets hope you're wrong.
So over-under touchdowns for the quarterbacks in this game, Tom Brady sits at 1.5, and that is at minus 230, which, for over. So it seems like people are expecting him to throw more. Aaron Rodgers, 2.5. It's actually the under that's getting all the action at minus 190. Any thoughts on those two lines, Jimmy?
I've already bet the over on Aaron Rodgers' touchdown pass.
That's juicy. Getting it's plus 145, and that's really juicy.
Yeah, when I saw it at plus 145, there's no way for me to believe Tampa Bay can hold Green Bay from being in the red zone 3 times, and Aaron Jones doesn't get red zone touches. Aaron Rodgers wants to throw touchdowns when he's down in the red zone, and he's going to throw at least 3.
The passing yards are pretty even for both quarterbacks. Tom Brady's over-under is 282.5. Aaron Rodgers is 284.5. Anything you like there? I just don't know what's going to happen in this game.
I feel Rodgers goes over, Brady goes under. I think Brady's under that number whether Tampa Bay wins or loses.
Interesting. I tend to think Brady will go over because they've been throwing so much. And I think that if this game, when it comes down to it, Bruce Arians is going to want to throw the football.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
All right, let's see here. What else we got? Nope, that's not what I wanted. Where is my Devontae Adams? Devontae Adams over-under receiving yards is 93.5. And this is one I like the over on.
Yep.
And the two big receivers, or actually the 3 big receivers, I should say, if I can find him. Oh, there's no line on Antonio Brown receiving yards. He's dinged up, isn't he?
He's been ruled out.
Oh, he has been ruled out. I did not see that. Well, thank you for that breaking news.
He has been ruled out.
So Chris Godwin is sitting at 70.5, and Mike Evans is at 64.5.
I would probably, these would be stayaways for me. If I was going to bet, I would take the under on Godwin and the over on Evans.
Yeah, I probably agree. If they get any big plays, you would think it'll be Evans or the who's the other slot guy they have?
Little Scotty Miller.
Scotty Miller, yeah. If they get a big play, it'll probably be one of those, you would think. But I don't know. This game really confuses me. I can kind of see all aspects of this game kind of playing out. I can see it being high scoring. I can see it being the low 20s. And I could even see a defensive struggle here where teams struggle to move the ball and maybe it ends up in the teens. I just don't feel like I have a good feel for what's going to happen.
Yeah, I could be completely off base. Green Bay's offense is just rolling. I don't believe...
Yeah, they do look really good.
I don't believe Tampa's defense is going to be able to just slow down what Aaron Rodgers is doing right now. And like I said, I've been wrong a couple times here in the playoffs, so I could be 100% wrong. But I just don't see it happening. I mean, they did get pressure on Drew Brees, but there were guys open that he continuously missed. And not that Aaron Rodgers isn't super mobile, but he knows how to use his mobility. And Heineke gave Tampa fits. So I could see some combination of both of those things really playing in Aaron Rodgers' favor.
Yeah, Aaron Jones over under rushing yards is at 63.5. I don't like. I mean, I like that line a lot in terms of because I think that's right about where he's going to be.
Yeah. Ooh, that's yeah. Ooh, because that feels like right.
Yeah, you figure he's going to be in the low 60s because they're probably going to throw. But
Yeah.
here's the ones that I look at is Ronald Jones is at 38.5, and Leonard Fournette is at 45.5. And I kind of think both of those are going to go under because of what I said earlier about Bruce Arians. I think they're going to look to throw.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other thoughts on this game, Jimmy?
Not really. I mean, I'm excited to watch it. You know, this is a legend. You know, some people won't call him the GOAT, but one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, hands down, who decided to reinvent himself this year and has done enough to get himself to another conference championship game. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he will find that gear. Maybe he will this team to victory. But I feel like this game is will be more about Aaron Rodgers' legacy. This game is going to mean so much more to him. Now, we know Tom Brady is a fierce competitor. I'm not taking that. I don't want to try to diminish that. Like, I imagine Tom Brady would get pissed if his kids beat him in a game of Connect 4. like Tom Brady is a fierce competitor. I don't think this game means as much to him as it does to Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is a moment for Aaron Rodgers to say, you know what? Brady's the other quarterback. Tampa's got a good defense. Well, I got a good defense, and I'm better than Brady. I'm going to strap on my championship belt, and I'm going back to the motherfucking Super Bowl.
Discount double check, motherfucker.
There it is.
All right, the late game on Sunday pits the streaking Buffalo Bills against the... I don't know. Everybody seems to think that the Kansas... When I hear people talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, I feel like they're the underdog in this game, despite the fact that they've lost one game over the last, 2 years.
It's that recency bias, man.
The Chiefs are 3-point favorites. The over-under on this game is 54 points. Buffalo is plus 144 on the money line, and the Chiefs are minus 168 on the money line. I'm going to guess based on what you said there that you're going to be picking the Chiefs. I know we both had the Chiefs early in the season.
Yeah, I'm sad that it's conference championship weekend, and I don't feel good about either money line bet for the win. The Buffalo Bills should have lost to the Indianapolis Colts 2 weeks ago. Like, they were hardly at times in that game were they the better team on the field. Josh Allen does some amazing things. Josh Allen does some dumb things.
Yeah, he's had fumbles the last 2 weeks that have just gone right back to him.
The Chiefs have a defense that is playing well enough that they can just put a safety over the top of Stephon Diggs. Like, Tyrann Mathieu will be wherever Stephon Diggs is on the football field all day long. They will press cover him at the line with Mathieu over the top. If Josh Allen is going to beat Patrick Mahomes' team in this game, it's going to be because he's throwing touchdown passes to Cole Beasley.
Yeah, he's back for this game. That's a big thing for them.
If Patrick Mahomes is healthy, which it appears he's healthy, we've made the concussion protocol very lenient here in the AFC playoffs. So we've cleared Patrick Mahomes to play. If Patrick Mahomes is healthy and he can play in this game, there's no reason for me to believe that the Buffalo Bills can beat this Kansas City Chiefs team. The only way the Cleveland Browns were able to get the Buffalo Bills on their heels was when their running game was working. The Buffalo Bills have abandoned the run in the playoffs. Josh Allen is their leading rusher. They've given up on Devin Singletary. They've given up on their rookie running back.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, last week when they played Baltimore, Devin Singletary had 7 carries for 25 yards. TJ Yeldon had 2 carries for 4 yards. And then Josh Allen had another 7 for 3 yards. So he wasn't even involved in running. Those are scrambles. He wasn't involved in any actual running plays.
Yeah, I believe they threw the ball on 19 straight plays to start the game, something like that.
Yeah, 37 passes against 16 runs.
The Buffalo Bills offensive line is not better than the Cleveland Browns offensive line. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
That's a true statement, even with the injuries that the Browns were dealing with.
Yeah, it's fact. It's true statement. if you try to throw the ball 19 times in a row against the Kansas City Chiefs, it's possible on the same play, Chris Jones might get a sack and Tyrann Mathieu gets an interception.
Chris Jones was so disruptive in that Cleveland game when they needed stops. And that's sort of, I think, been Kansas City all year. The offense early and the defense early tends to look good, and then they get up by 2 scores and they put it in cruise control.
Yeah. And I refuse to believe, like Andy Reid is like every man's head coach, right? Like, Andy Reid is not Sean McVay. Andy Reid is not spending time in the weight room with his players, right? Andy Reid is that guy who we just imagine goes home and has like 4 double cheeseburgers while watching reruns of The Family Guy. Like, I refuse to believe the Kansas City Chiefs are not pissed off about the fact that the Buffalo Bills are getting way more coverage than they are going into this game. Like, I do believe that matters. The Kansas City Chiefs are on kind of an unprecedented run here of what they're doing. It has not been done in the NFL in a long time. And they're doing it pretty easy. Like, they're doing it so easy that the couple close games they've played, we've been like, what's wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs? Dude, that's just what NFL football games are supposed to look like. But they're so much better than everybody else. When they play a close game, we're like, this doesn't make any sense. If Patrick Mahomes is healthy, they're going to have their game plan. Now, I do think they might have to run the ball a little bit more than what they've been doing, so that could be a problem because Buffalo does have an opportunistic defense. They do get after the quarterback a little bit.
Yeah, but Clyde Hilaire had a huge game in their first meeting.
Yep.
Buffalo basically played back and said, we're not going to let Tyreek Hill beat us downfield, and they left everything open underneath, and they just kept running the ball for 6-7 yards or, those 5-yard ins and outs, and if you give that to Kansas City, they're just going to march right down the field.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think Buffalo, like, I could see Josh Allen throwing a horrific interception to change this game. But for the most part, I think Buffalo's probably going to be on script, do exactly what they want to do, and they're still going to lose this game by like 9 points. I just don't think they can compete with this Chiefs team.
I think the Chiefs have been listening to all the talk for weeks, and they're going to come out and put the smack down. I think we've seen this before where defending champions, specifically, we've seen it with New England, where, oh, here's the new contender, they're going to dethrone us, and they take it personally. And they say, yep, no, fuck this, we're the champs, and we're still the champs, and we're going to show you.
Yeah.
And as long as Patrick Mahomes is right, and I don't know if he is, I'm less worried about, he wasn't even concussed, they said. The problem was a pinched nerve, I believe. And the problem that I really think is that toe, because it was really limiting him, and you could tell it was hurting him when he was playing against Cleveland.
Yep.
All right, so there are no player props for Mahomes. He's off the board, and they don't have anything for Chad Henne. Not that we would bet any of those anyway. We do have some player props, though, for the Kansas City receivers, and we do have some for Josh Allen and the Bills. Josh Allen touchdown passes 2.5. Over is plus 125. Under is minus 160. Any thoughts there, Jimmy?
Oh, 2 feels right.
Yeah, I like the under there too, but that's not something I'm going to bet because this game could very easily turn into a 45-42 shootout where Mahomes and Allen both have like 4 or 5 touchdown passes each. Josh Allen's passing yards is at 301.5. I kind of like the over there because I think all they're going to do is throw.
Yeah.
The ones, two that I really like, and we mentioned him earlier, is Cole Beasley. His receptions over-under is 4.5, and his reception yards is 44.5. I like the over on both of those.
Yeah, those almost feel like locks.
If you're looking at other receivers for Buffalo, John Brown, 54.5 is his over-under. I can see him having one catch for about that many yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's just a question of will that be enough?
Yeah.
And Stephon Diggs is sitting at 98.5.
See, that's an under for me. I don't think they're going to let Stephon Diggs beat them.
I mostly agree with you, but I'm not going to put any money on that. Tyreek Hill, his reception yards over under is at 82.5. After we foolishly didn't bet that last week, I'm betting that this week.
Yep.
And our favorite guy when it comes to the player props is Travis Kelce. His reception number is 7.5, which I would stay away from, but his receiving yards is 94.5. His touchdowns are at 0.5. Bet the over on the receiving yards. Bet the over on the touchdowns. That has won. I don't have my note here, but that his yardage has hit on, I want to say, 9 of the last 11 weeks. Maybe 12.
And I could see Buffalo probably deploying the same kind of defense they did the first time. So I think he'll go over on receptions as well.
Yeah, and definitely Kelsey's getting a touchdown. And I like Tyreek Hill to get a touchdown as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So any final thoughts on this game, Jimmy? Chiefs, Bills, McDermott versus Andy Reid.
Well, I have a question for you because I feel like I know the answer, and I'm not sure, so I'm going to ask. Do you happen to know what year in NFL history we're in this year of the Super Bowl era?
Oh, which Super Bowl number it is?
Yeah.
Not off the top of my head, but I can look that up.
Could you look that up real quick?
It'll be Super Bowl, what is that, 55.
Right, 55, right? That's what I thought it was. So, I think it's amazing to me how, like, I can understand the conspiracy theorists out there that believe the NFL is a big work like professional wrestling. Like, because
I don't. I've never understood that. There's so many things, and I think a lot of that talk when people talk about, oh well, the refs did this, the refs did that. I think a lot of that comes from people that have never actually officiated games, and is somebody that umpired baseball for a long time. Well, it's not just that it's hard, but you're human. You're making tons of calls throughout the game, and guess what? Sometimes you just fucking miss stuff.
Yeah, but I like. There's been so much symmetry over the years in the NFL, and we're finally back to the Packers-Chiefs Super Bowl.
Oh,
and those
that was what, Super Bowls 1 and 2.
Yep, and those quarterbacks also happen to have be in the same insurance commercials all the time, and I love it. And I hope they're both healthy for the Super Bowl, and I cannot wait to see one of, like, because Rodgers is kind of like, he's like that gap between the two generations of quarterbacks of, I could just stand in the pocket and wing the ball all over the field, but hey, look, there's 15 yards open in front of me. I'm kind of fast. I can just run and get this yard. Like, he's kind of that gap quarterback between the two.
Yeah, and he's Rodgers is sort of what the way Rodgers plays the game, as you just said, where he's a pocket passer, but he can also run. That is, he's become the standard of what an NFL quarterback is. Teams aren't just looking for guys that can throw the ball from the pocket; they're looking for guys that can also do some stuff with their legs.
Yep, and there really wasn't, with the exception of Elway, there wasn't a great quarterback who excelled at both for a long time. And Rodgers kind of brought that back. And now you've got Patrick Mahomes, who, by all accounts, has an opportunity to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And I'm just super excited for the Super Bowl, and I know it's looking ahead. I just don't see a path for Tampa Bay and Buffalo to win this weekend. I just don't see it. I was a huge fan of the Buffalo Bills of the 90s. I loved the offense. They were fun to watch. They had some great pieces on defense. I'm by no means a Bills fan, but I did love watching the Bills play football. It still breaks my heart whenever they show Norwood missing that field goal, because they were the best. In my opinion, they were the better team in that football game, and they deserved to win, and they did it.
Yeah, and
it would be.
Oh, go ahead.
It would be great because while I don't root, let's see, how do I want to say this properly? I don't root for other teams that have had shitty front offices and shitty runs of luck and years of incompetence and years of under succeeding just because I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. Like, I don't feel a kindred spirit to the Jets, to the Bills, to the Jaguars, the teams that haven't lived up to what they could be or were once at the top and fallen off. But for what the league needs of consistency and the league needs parity, the league needs it to not just be the Patriots out of the AFC East every year, because personally I believe the Patriots will be right back next year if the defensive players come back and they get a quarterback. It would be cool to see the Bills go to the Super Bowl.
I think it would be hilarious if the Bills made the Super Bowl and lost to Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's kind of like...
That would be hilarious. That'd be very fitting, too, considering how many years he just kicked the shit out of them in the AFC East.
If it's Buffalo, Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl, there's no other option other than Tom Brady winning the football game. Like, that's it. That's the only option. So I think that's compelling as well. But I want to see this healthy Packers team versus this healthy Chiefs team because, you know, I talk about it a lot. We've talked about it a lot. Like, for so long in the late 90s and the early 00s, teams were able to live on defense wins championships. Defenses no longer win championships, but you do have to have some semblance of a defense in the postseason to win football games. Your defense has to be able to get stops at times. They have to be able to sack the quarterback. They have to be able to be good in spots, be great in spots to win games. I feel like that's the definition of Kansas City and Green Bay's defense. And I want to see how both offenses would attack those defenses. They've been two of the best teams, if not the two best teams in football the majority of the season, and I hope that's what we get for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and just looking at the Super Bowl, the potential matchups, obviously the Chiefs and the Packers, the two big quarterbacks, or the Chiefs and Buccaneers is going to be the two big quarterbacks. And then if the Bills come, it's going to be, you know, young versus old. It's going to be that same thing. So the AFC has all the young quarterbacks. The NFC has all the established older quarterbacks. So it's going to be a fun old guard versus a new guard in the Super Bowl, regardless of what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I have. Like, I'm excited for this game. I think watching Aaron Rodgers destroy Tom Brady's team is going to be must-watch television. Like, I don't think it's going to be a close game. I really don't. But it's going to be a captivating football game. But I think the Bills-Chiefs game could actually be really good. I think it could be kind of along the same lines as what the Chiefs-Browns game was. Like, I don't think Mahomes, you know, I hope Mahomes stays healthy for the whole game. But I can see Josh Allen having 3 or 4 possessions where he just does some crazy shit and gets like touchdown, field goal, touchdown, something like that, to where he keeps his team in the game. But I think they're both going to be really good football games.
I agree. And any final thoughts on this weekend's games before we move on to some of the head coaching hires?
No, like I said, I'm just ready. It's kind of impressive. Like, I hate giving Roger Goodell and the people that work for him any credit because I think they mess up so much stuff. But with the exception of a handful of teams who got fucked during the course of the season, the NFL seemed to do a really good job with COVID. Like, they got to this point. They got here. There were only a few times where they didn't know what to do. A couple times I feel like they made the wrong decision, but that's just what it is. But, you know, it's awesome that we got the whole season in and we got 2 weeks left and there will be a champion this year.
Yes, there will. So the elephant in the room when it comes to NFL head coaches is that Eric Bienemy still has not been hired for anything. There's only one head coaching job left. That's in Houston. All eyes are on Houston with that. I'm going to be very blunt here when I talk about the Houston head coaching search. If you recall when the New York Times released audio of the owner's phone call talking about the player protest movement when they were kneeling, Bob McNair, who is the deceased owner now of the Houston Texans, he said some of the most bigoted shit I've ever heard. And it was very clear that he didn't look at the players on his team as human beings. He saw them as his people. I own them. They are my players, and they will do whatever the fuck I tell them to do.
Yeah.
It seems that since he has died and his son has taken over, that mindset has not changed in any bit. It seems like that organization has. I'm just going to say it. I think they're a bigoted organization. I don't think they want to hire a black coach. I don't think they even want to entertain the idea of hiring a black coach. And when you told me the two black coaches that they brought in to meet the Rooney Rule, and who were those people, Jimmy?
I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it was Marvin Lewis and Jim Caldwell.
Yeah, they're not hiring either one of those guys. It's just not happening. And people can say, oh, well, they had Romeo Crennel this year. Like, yeah, Romeo Crennel was on the staff of Bill O'Brien, and he took over because he was basically the only guy who could take over.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's what Houston is as an organization. I think they're a mess. And honestly, at this point, I hope they don't hire Eric Bienemy because he deserves better than that shit. And I hope Deshaun Watson gets out of there because he deserves better than that shit. And that's my rant on the Houston Texans. Getting to the other coaching hires, the Jets hired Robert Salah. I think that's a good hire. I don't know. What do you think?
As long as he gets good offensive minds around him, it's a good hire. I definitely think he's proven already that he can be a leader of men, and I think that's very, very important, especially for a team that had a guy who was not a leader.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about there is you have Sam Darnold, who you need to develop, or whoever you draft and bring in is going to have to be developed. Can a defensive coach do that? We've seen that be a problem in the past, but I like what Salah brings to the table. The Falcons hired Arthur Smith, who was the Titans' offensive coordinator. I don't know. Did the Titans' offense make you go, we got to hire that guy?
Can I rant a little bit now?
Oh, go right ahead.
May I go off? All right, so one of my personal favorite podcasts, I'm going to give a shout out to one of my personal favorite podcasts. It's the CBS Pick Six podcast. I absolutely love it. I think they balance a lot of good football information, and over the last few years, they've talked a lot about Arthur Smith. And this man is the son of the owner of UPS or FedEx, one of the two. I don't really think it fucking matters, but he's the son of one of them. He's been tight ends coach. He's been on the staff there in Tennessee for a long, long time. I have talked shit about the Tennessee Titans offense for the last 2 seasons. And I'm going to continue to talk shit about them right now. So here's the deal. If Derrick Henry is not running over defenses, and defenses didn't then have to put all their resources in the box to where Ryan Tannehill could go play action, run a max protect, 2 or 3 person route, they're crossing routes, throwing footballs to wide open wide receivers, running across the field, that offense looks fucking horrible. You know what they don't have in Atlanta? Derrick fucking Henry. I don't know if Arthur Smith will make it 2 seasons. I truthfully don't know. Like, we saw in the playoffs, we saw at the end of the year, we saw in the Cleveland Browns game, when the Cleveland Browns stripped Derrick Henry of the football and got up by a couple of scores, and Tennessee needed to actually be creative and run an offense. Ryan Tannehill looked like Ryan Tannehill from Miami. The offense looked like shit. There were no answers. There was no creativity. And the Atlanta Falcons said, you know what? We've had a head coach like that for a whole bunch of years. Let's fucking hire another one. Like,
they probably looked at it and said, well, he's doing this level with Ryan Tannehill, so if we bring him in with Matt Ryan, he should be, 10 to 15% better. But like you said, the Atlanta Falcons are missing a key piece in that puzzle, and it's named Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I believe Arthur Smith will fail. I do not believe he'll be a head coach for more than 2 seasons max.
Well, history would say that of the new coaching hires, all but 2 of them are going to wind up being fired within 3 years.
There you go.
The big splash was Urban Meyer going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this hire, especially because Urban Meyer has a tendency to go places, be really good for a short amount of time, and then bail.
Yeah. And I think the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars might be perfectly okay with that.
Well, if they're good, he'll be perfectly okay with it, but you would assume they're going to take Trevor Lawrence. We've seen Urban Meyer offenses at Ohio State get completely and totally bogged down.
Yes.
How is he going to respond in press conferences when that happens and his team doesn't win because they're significantly more talented than the team across the field? What happens when his offense gets bogged down and it's the third or fourth week in a row that that's happened, and now he's got to sit in a press conference and he has reporters challenging him for the first time in his career?
He's going to say a lot of stupid shit. He's going to say a lot of dumb catchphrases. He's going to probably pass the buck. He's going to give a lot of, I hate to say it because I think Urban Meyer's a better coach, but I think Urban Meyer's press conferences after losses is going to sound a lot like Bill O'Brien's press conferences after losses. We're just going to have to watch the tape. I can't really talk about that right now. It was a situation thing that we did. I got to watch the tape. Got to find out. I can't really answer that right now.
Yeah, and the teams that have coaches that do that kind of stuff, it always goes so well because we saw that a lot here in Cleveland the last 20 years, and it's a nightmare.
Now, the one thing I will say, I believe we may have talked about this off air. I believe the thing with Urban Meyer, where there's a chance for success, the Jaguars are one of the youngest rosters in the NFL. There's going to be a lot of respect for Urban Meyer. I do believe that, and probably as much as any podcast you could find. We are about as anti-Gardner Minshew as possible.
He's bad.
Yeah, we were not fans of Gardner Minshew. We watched him be really, really bad, a lot more than he was ever kind of good. But there are actually a lot of really talented young offensive pieces on the Jaguars roster. If Trevor Lawrence can come in and be nearly as good as the experts all think he can be, I think Jacksonville may be able to score points. Urban Meyer's got a lot of work to do on the defensive side of the ball because I think that's still where the problem's going to be. They've lost just so much talent over, since the Blake Bortles debacles. So I do think he will have the locker room to start at least. I don't know how long he will have it, but I do believe to start there will be a buy-in and he will have them.
Yeah, and speaking of defense, the Rams defensive coordinator Brandon Staley was hired by the LA Chargers. This is one of those hires that when we talk about Eric Bienemy not getting a job, Brandon Staley has been a defensive coordinator for a year. He was a linebackers coach for 3 years before that, and that Rams defense is really good. But that Rams defense also has a ton of talent. They have Aaron Donald, who's pretty much the consensus best defensive player in the league. These are the types of things that I don't understand. The questions that are being asked of Eric Bienemy in terms of getting a head coaching job. Oh, well, is he calling the plays? How much of Mahomes' development is him? How much of it is Andy Reid? How much of the offense is him? How much of the offense is Andy Reid? I don't hear any of these questions with Brandon Staley. So why do I hear them with Eric Bienemy but not Brandon Staley? And the only answer to that question is, well, Brandon Staley's a white guy. Because he's been a defensive coordinator for a year. Their defense was great this year, but that's just 1 year. That Kansas City offense has been great for several years with Eric Bienemy as the offensive coordinator, but somehow he can't get that job, which if Houston hires him, maybe this all seems a bit of an overreaction, but Houston didn't even want to interview him to begin with.
Which is still insane to me. And then last night reports came out, they were seriously thinking about hiring Josh McCown to be their head coach.
And that's just I don't have words after what happened with that Josh McCown, with what happened with Cam Newton last year and Josh McCown. He just didn't. I do not get it, Jimmy. And maybe Brandon Staley works out, but this is the same problem that we see with Salah, is that you have a young quarterback and Justin Herbert who looks really good, and now you've paired him with a defensive coach.
Right.
How does that dynamic work out? Does that hinder his development? I don't know.
Okay, so here I I'm going to try to answer all of your questions, but it might be a little circular to get there. So, I don't, from a defensive standpoint, I don't necessarily disagree with Brandon Staley coming into the Chargers. Because while the Chargers don't quite have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, the Chargers, if they're healthy, which they haven't been for a couple of years, if they're healthy, the Chargers have dynamic players on the defense that are at least somewhat comparable to the guys the Rams have. So they would expect Staley to be able to get that same kind of success out of them. And then somebody hires an offensive coordinator. You hope he does a good job. But here's the reason that the San Diego Chargers, and I fucking called them the San Diego Chargers, and I did it on purpose. The reason they didn't hire Eric Bienemy, I don't even know if they interviewed him, but the reason they didn't hire him is because they're not a well-run organization. That's the only reason. That is the only reason. If the Pittsburgh Steelers fired Mike Tomlin today, there's probably a 95% chance that they would do a Zoom interview with Eric Bienemy and have the paperwork to the league office before day end that as soon as the Chiefs are out of the playoffs, we want to make Eric Bienemy our head coach. Because they're a well-run organization. As much as I hate it because they're our rivals, but you cannot look past their success. They do the right things. They hire the right people, whether anybody else thinks they should or not, because all they fucking care about is winning. That's it. I don't think all the Texans care about is winning. I don't think all the Chargers care about is winning. I think their owners think that they're better than what they are when you could easily say with the teams the Chargers had during LaDainian Tomlinson, Phillip Rivers' prime, you fucking failed by not going to a Super Bowl. Like, straight up. Like, I don't care if the other quarterbacks were in the AFC. Your rosters were as good, if not better, and you never got there because you've never been able to put the right people in place. I'm much more of a supporter of Marty Schottenheimer than you are, but how many times do you have to watch the man clearly not be able to get this roster over the hump? You don't change anything on the roster, and you didn't change the coach, and you expected different results, or you're a fucking idiot. Like, the Chargers organization is not well ran. That's why Eric Bieniemy's not their head coach. That's probably why he won't be the Texans head coach, and probably why they'll trade Deshaun Watson to the Jets for 2 first-rounders. Because they're not a well-run organization. I do believe at some point Eric Bieniemy will be a head coach. I've heard that part of the reasons he's not getting hired is because of past off-field incidences that I cannot remember or recall ever seeing in the news. Now, I do think part of what's penalizing Eric Bieniemy is how bad the head coach of the Bears has been, because he was supposedly really dialed in with Andy Reid, and their offenses have looked really bad, but you also had Mitch Trubisky as your quarterback, and you're not the one that drafted him, so I can only hold that against you so much. Like, there's a big difference between offensive coordinating Alex Smith and offensive coordinating Mitchell Trubisky. But shitty organizations make shitty decisions. And normally the teams that need to hire head coaches are shitty organizations.
Speaking of shitty teams making shitty decisions, Nick Sirianni was hired by the Philadelphia Eagles because you and I both praised that Indianapolis Colts defense or offense so consistently this year. Like, this is another one. Like, how the fuck does he get hired ahead of Eric Bienemy? On what planet does that make any fucking sense?
It doesn't. And, like, by all accounts, with the exception of Carson Wentz, there was no problems with Doug Peterson until he made the smart decision at the end of the year to not try to win a game that didn't fucking matter. Like, and I guess, there were a lot of players pushed back and were really upset about it. And if they're not smart enough to see that winning that game only hurt your team, then I don't know if I really want to coach them anyway. Like, I don't understand what's going on with the Eagles. Like, I don't get it. The Eagles, as far as a mid-market team goes, like, Philadelphia is a pretty desired location. Like, their owner, I mean, he spends money. I don't understand how this is the best you could do for head coach. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand that move. And if maybe that's a move where they think Houston's going to hire Bienemy, or maybe Bienemy said he didn't want to go there, but that just, I don't know. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Dan Campbell got hired by the Lions, and he decided to turn his press conference into a 1975 wrestling shoot, which was, as a promo, it was good for old school wrestling, but as a head coaching hire press conference, it sounded ridiculous.
It was horrible. So we got to talk about Dan Campbell for a minute.
Well, he's coming from the Saints, and I'm surprised that at no point did anybody put two and two together with Dan Campbell coming from the Saints and the Saints Bountygate thing and what he said in his press conference about basically trying to injure people.
Yeah, I agree.
Like that.
So,
like what?
Okay. So he is apparently, according to everything I've read, none of the talking heads that have information on him think it's a bad hire. They think he's a motivator, he's a leader of men. On the defensive side of the ball, he's really good, and they think having spent time with Sean Payton, he will be able to get the right offensive people around him. I don't know what Detroit does with their offensive coordinators. I believe both Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay are both unrestricted free agents. So if I'm Matt Stafford, I might go ahead and retire, to be totally honest. Because I don't know if I want to go through what this year could be. Although I do think they have a good young running back in DeAndre Swift. But he may, come opening day, he might be the best wide receiver on the roster too. I don't know. But, so Dan Campbell's nameplate outside of his office says Dan Campbell / the dude. Dan Campbell is a huge Big Lebowski fan. Now, for those of you that don't know, Evan and I, we are huge Big Lebowski fans.
The dude abides.
We may even cross the threshold of big into, like, super fans, possibly. But Evan, this man was asked what his favorite scene from The Big Lebowski was. Do you know what he said? He said the scene where they go to spread the ashes, and the ashes blow back in the dude's face and go everywhere. I have a problem if that's your favorite scene from The Big Lebowski. Did you hear me there?
What was the bit there? I thought you were going to keep going.
Oh, I can. I wasn't sure if you wanted to jump in or not. I would happily keep going. He's either lying to everyone about that being his favorite scene in The Big Lebowski, or he's not a big fan of The Big Lebowski. Because there are like 82 scenes that are funnier and better than that scene.
I don't know. You're just picking one random person. I mean, everybody has... As somebody who often loves pop culture things that everybody else loves, but tends to love them for a lot of different reasons, I'm not going to get too lost in the weeds on whether or not he really loves The Big Lebowski or not.
I am. I got a problem with it. This shall not stand.
I love it. I love that we're bringing Big Lebowski into this.
I couldn't, like, I was all about it. And then when he said that, I'm like, wait, what? That's your, what? No, you're lying. You're lying about one or two things. I don't know which one. Because, I mean, to put that scene over the dude wrecking his car? Come on. Can't do it. But we have one more coach we need to talk about.
Please go ahead.
We need to talk about a shitty organization that is turning themselves around and made the right decision to hire a head coach who has now been named NFL Coach of the Year.
Did he get the official one? I know the Sporting News.
I believe he has been named the official. I could be wrong. I might be jumping the gun.
Well, let me look it up while I'm sitting here. If he doesn't, it just doesn't seem like it makes much sense. I don't know who they would put ahead of him because I just don't know. They were talking about Sean McDermott in Buffalo maybe getting it, and then they were talking about Brian Flores down in Miami getting it. I don't see how Flores gets it ahead of Stefanski, and I don't see how McDermott gets it ahead of Stefanski. McDermott's in his second year. Stefanski took over a team that hasn't had a winning record in 12 seasons, and with no off season, with no training camp, went 11-5 and won a playoff game. Now the playoff game doesn't matter; it's a regular season award, but still.
Yes.
It looks like they haven't. They've done the Pro Football Writers, which is one of them, and they've done the Sporting News, which is another one. They haven't done the official, league one yet.
Okay.
That one looks like. Let me see when it'll be announced. It does not say. We're talking about the AP award. Seems to be the one that they. That seems to be the big one. They have not released that yet.
Okay.
But that should be Stefanski, and we talked a lot about just the stability he's brought to the organization.
Yes, but I love, I can't stress enough how much I love that we're in coach hiring season and, mock draft season.
And the Browns are nowhere to be found.
The Browns aren't being dragged through the mud. The Browns aren't being picked on. We're not talking about who all the times we failed drafting at the top of the draft. We're just down there in the middle waiting to see what the best defensive player left on the board is when we pick. And I'm just ecstatic. And the Cleveland Cavs have beat the new Big Three 2 times in a row.
Durant didn't play last night.
It's kind of unreal. Well, of course not. Not after playing 9,000 minutes in a double overtime loss.
And we'll get some basketball in here before long, but just as a quick thing on the Cavs, I had some money on the Cavs over under. I took the over when it was 20.5. I don't think the Cavs are a good basketball team. Let me be very clear. I don't think they're a good basketball team. What they are is incredibly rested after a very long off season. They weren't one of the bubble teams, and we're seeing a number of the bubble teams that are younger are doing very well, particularly in the East. The Hawks and the Knicks also look very good. And I think that is an example of young teams that are rested and hungry and want to play basketball against a bunch of older teams with mostly veterans that just, I don't think a lot of these teams don't even look like the season started for them.
Well, and it's not even just the older players and older teams. Jamal Murray does not look okay.
No, it's just everything's so weird. So I guess my general thing in the NBA right now is everybody just be cautious in terms of what you take from what's going on and how you try to extrapolate that going forward. The compressed schedule makes it much more difficult for teams, especially these guys that have played a couple of years in the NBA, like Jamal Murray. This is about the time that you start getting that wear and tear in terms of, oh, shit, I've done this for a couple of seasons now and my body doesn't recover, and we didn't really have an off season, and then I came back and played, and then we were off for a month, and now I'm playing again, and we're playing 3-4 nights a week, and everything's just weird.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I think helps the younger teams is there are no road crowds. That cannot be forgotten when you think about how these games are being played and the results that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Of course, I say all this, but, like clockwork, LeBron James just continues to look like the best player in the league in year 973. And 10 years from now, when he's still playing in the league, we'll be like, well, at some point, LeBron will no longer be averaging 27-7.
Yeah, but we do need to, I know we're wrapping up our NFL Conference Championship pod here. I got us a little off track. I do apologize, but we need to get our NBA expert on with us to help me decide if Giannis has already peaked.
I mentioned yesterday their window might be closed.
I don't
when we were texting. I think their window already closed. I'm not sure their window was ever really open, especially with Budenholzer as their coach.
And I think that might be exactly how I feel about the Buffalo Bills.
Ooh, way to bring us back into topic. Well done, sir.
I believe that's exactly how I feel about the Buffalo
You don't think
Bills.
McDermott can get it done?
I don't think so.
Well, we will see. And you will see as well watching Sunday. Jimmy, thank you for joining me.
No place else I'd rather be, brother.
All right, and thank you for listening. For No Broken Legs, I am Evan Belfiore. For Jimmy Champ, we wish you a good weekend and happy watching these championship games. We'll see you next week.
Every action has a repercussion. Lyrical bullets don't make me get the